What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricundo coming back at you with another video. Haven't been live for a while. I just been out there posting videos, trying to keep you guys updated and have good conversation about the Falcons off season. But today I decided to come on here and talk about it with you guys and give you my complete thoughts about the offseason where it stands today. We're going to talk about the defensive additions, the offense additions. This guy's going to play on some special teams as well. We'll talk about the cap space. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the draft. So those are the things we're going to talk about today. And so, guys, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys like to hear what I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about these Atlanta Falcons that's going to be able to do something this year. Hopefully, finally, we get to see these guys compete like we want them to. We've been two long years with this new regime. Let's see what these guys can put together this year. And I can say this offseason has been pretty good. We all know that the Atlanta Falcons seemed like they had a plan, right? We heard so many rumors about, other guys coming in, big trades and things like that. But it certainly seems like the Atlanta Falcons had a plan. The plan was to get rid of all that cap space that they had for the last 2 years, and then they will be big players this year in offseason. And as of right now, the Atlanta Falcons have made the most moves this offseason to their team. And, some of the moves, a lot of people didn't, came out of nowhere. But for me personally, I think I like all the moves. You kind of see their vision, where they're going. And we're going to talk about some of those moves today. So before we get started, what's going on, EQ? What's going on, Anthony? Um, Yeah, I just heard about the fake rumor. They just put out a memo telling teams do not listen to this guy. You're only supposed to be talking to Lamar Jackson, so that's crazy. Um, he probably should go ahead and get an agent, man. It's probably make it a whole lot easier for him to get an agent. I think if he would have had an agent, he probably already have a deal with Baltimore. But you know, he's the black sheep. He want to do it his own way, and you know, what's her name just got a deal with the Texans, doing being his own agent as well. It wasn't a fully guaranteed deal, but he got a good solid deal for an offensive tackle. So it's not impossible to do, but I just think it's harder for a quarterback because it's so much money, and I don't think nobody's going to give the Deshaun Watson deal to another quarterback. So um, he might have to be waiting a long time. But I do think when a team do offer him Lamar Jackson, somebody's actually going to match that contract. So um, at the end, we could have visions, and thinking about Lamar Jackson being on the Falcon, but I think at the end of the day, he's probably always going to be a Baltimore Raven. So, all right, so let's get into it, guys. The first thing I'm going to talk about today is the defensive additions to this team. And like I said, we know the Falcons been making so many moves. They make so many moves this offseason, and we'll talk about all of them. The first one, we're gonna go way back before the free agency period start was Lorenzo Carter. Bringing back Lorenzo Carter, that was one of the guys that we all thought that they probably was going to bring back. I think he had good chemistry with the team. He liked it here. Lorenzo Carter didn't have enormous numbers for stats and stuff, but he did play well, played the run well. He had big plays in this game. Actually had a pick six, had a scoop and score on the punt on a punt block on special teams as well. So he made big plays for this team. Bringing back a guy like Lorenzo Carter who knew the culture, bringing him in for a 2-year deal. I think that was a big pickup for us, and he kind of started it off from a defensive standpoint before free agency started, bringing back a guy like Lorenzo Carter. Another guy that we haven't heard anything about, who hasn't signed with another team yet, Rashaan Evans. We still don't know if they're going to bring Rashaan Evans back, but maybe they might. So we'll just have to see what they decide to do with Rashaan Evans. But Lorenzo Carter is a guy on defense that they actually brought back to the team which I think was a good signing. Um, so let's see here. You said good DTs and wide receiver. I think the choices were nice. I agree. I agree. So we'll go to that first signing of the offseason. And you just talked about defensive tackle, David Amiyata. I thought was a great pickup. He wasn't one of the guys that, that was going to make a big, large amount of money. Um, I think we got him for a deal. I think his deal was going for about 11 million a year. I think we got him for like 9 million a year. So if you're just looking at that, um, and we can say this about Terry Fontenot, all the deals he made, he kind of got them under what. If you go to Sport Track and look at their market value, he kind of got all these guys from under what their market value was. So you have to like the way he was willing and dealing and how he structured these contracts as well. But Dave Amiyata was a good pickup, first of all, because he had the ties with our new defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen. And we kind of, hurt the New Orleans Aints as well by taking one of their interior defensive linemen. And then we're pairing this guy up with a guy like Grady Jarrett. Um, Grady Jarrett still is the best defensive tackle right now that we have, but pairing a guy that still has to be double teamed that actually created so many pressures when he was with the Aints. He was in the top 10 in quarterback pressures last season. So that tells you that he is able to penetrate through the middle just like a Grady. Now it's going to be difficult to try to double team both of these guys. Um, and then you couple that with the pass rush on the outside, it's going to be tough to try to keep these guys off the penetration of the quarterback. I think the worst pressure for a quarterback is up the middle, because the outside they're able to step up, but if you're not able to step up in the pocket, it really makes your feet messy, and quarterback get off their spot. And that's how we get turnovers and things like that. So I love this addition of David Amiyata. I think he's gonna help Grady Jarrett out a lot, and you just have to imagine him, um, Taquan Graham, and Grady Jarrett. Both of these guys. Taquan Graham was another guy that came on last year. He was really good in the run game and it showed when he actually went out with an injury. We had to start playing guys like Timothy Horn, our undrafted guys, um, Dalton, both all those guys, undrafted guys that we was not able to have that same effect that a guy like Taquan Graham was having. So we really missed him, but adding him back as well as a guy like David Amiyata is really going to be good for us. Then the addition of Eddie Goldman coming back, um, being reinstated, guy that we really thought was a good signing last year, but decided to retire. But it was a good thing that the Falcons actually kept him there. They just reinstated him, picked up that same contract from last year, and he was going to play that nose tackle position. Now you can put him in the middle of a Grady and a Amiyata, and just imagine the run game. I think the biggest thing that is underlooked, because we talk about rushing the passer and trying to get out the quarterback. The biggest thing is creating third and longs. So we able to create third down and longs. I think that's going to really help us, because if you go look at the Falcons last year, they didn't give up a lot of points, but they gave up a lot of yards, because a lot of times we was in 32, 33, because we was not able to stop the run. So when you get in 32s and 33, it's hard to get out the field on third down, because the quarterback has so many options they can do on third down on the offensive side of the ball. So being able to create third and longs, second and longs, and things like that, it's really going to pay off for us. That's mean being able to stop the run, and then maybe our pass rush can get better, because now it's not 2 or 3 yards they have to get first down. It's 7, 8, 9, or 10 yards they have to get a first down, and that's going to help us as well. So um, I love the additions on the defensive tackle line, and one of the positions that maybe um, could have been a weakness coming into this offseason, I think now is a strength, which would allow them to do a lot of good things in the draft now because it's not a need anymore. Um, Going out and getting another defensive tackle would just be a luxury for us. And as you all know, they did bring in Calais Campbell. Um, Unfortunately, they didn't get the deal signed before he left. The word out, he just went to Jacksonville and had a visit as well. Maybe he's weighing his options, and we'll have to hopefully hear something soon. Maybe we bring a guy like Calais Campbell in to even make that defensive front even more stout. A guy that has 99 sacks in his career. Um, yes, he's older, but I would think bringing a guy like that in that still had 5.5 sacks last year would definitely help this um, defensive line. He could have spot steps, spot stat snaps, and things like that. He won't have to play, every down because he could be a rotational guy. So we'll have to wait to hear something about Calais Campbell. But I think the defensive line is much improved, and they can only make it better if they bring somebody in the draft. The next guy is another guy from the New Orleans Saints. It's Caden Ellis, linebacker, guy that popped up on the scene last year with 78 tackles, 7 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. This guy here was just dynamic last year. Like I said, came with Aints earlier, got injured, um, had to find opportunities to be able to get on the field. Last year, finally got that, and he really flourished in the opportunity that he had. They had him all over the line. They had him, rushing in an A gap, which is really, really good. He was on the outside, being an outside pass rusher as well. Did a lot of great things. And the reason he said he came to Atlanta was because the way Ron Nilsson was going to be able to utilize him. He didn't want to be put in a box. So that's good. We can use him all over the field. You don't know where that blitz is going to be coming from. Using a guy like Caden Ellis, I like the signing. He really looked really explosive on the plays that he did make with the Aints. So Caden Ellis is really good signing for us. Defense is really getting better here. The next guy is Jesse Bates. I think this is the guy that most people thought the Atlanta Falcons probably definitely would sign eventually. Um, Talked about it. I think people maybe started talking about this last season. Actually, Jesse Bates, and everybody knew he was going to be a free agent. Um, I love this signing because he's pretty much the quarterback of the defensive back, captain with the Cincinnati Bengals. Get everybody lined up. His instincts is really good. Kind of remind me of guys like a Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu, things like that. Being able to read plays and go straight to the play, just instinctual safety, plays deep, able to come up and make plays on the ball. Has 14 career interceptions. This guy is just really a playmaker, the playmaker that we actually needed in the defensive backfield. So I love this signing by the Atlanta Falcons. Still young, only 26-year-old. So Jesse Bates is a good signing for us. You can pair him with a guy like AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward, and Richie Grant. I just really love this signing. And we know that Richie Grant was another guy that had that jump from year one to year two, and really played well. Played like that second round pick um, that he got a couple of years ago. So the defensive backfield got better as well. So think about it, guys. The defensive line got better. Defensive backfield got better. Now we just need to make sure we shore up the linebacker spot. We brought in Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson. Hopefully he make that jump. Still got Michael Walker there. I anticipate them bringing in another linebacker to definitely um, boost up that linebacker in the middle spot in the middle. Maybe they might bring Rashawn Evans back. He did lead the team in tackles last year, a good leader. But we don't know if he fit what Ryan Nielsen is trying to do. So we'll just have to see. A couple more guys here we're going to talk about. We brought back Cornell Armstrong, um, depth depth cornerback. Right now, I think they got like 13 cornerbacks on the roster. good competition there. But Corner Armstrong played well. Actually had 4 starts for the Atlanta Falcons last year when AJ and Terrell and Casey Hayward both was down. Played well in some, but he played like a backup. That's what you need. Somebody to come in and be able to give you some starter minutes if need be. So it was a good signing bringing Cornell Armstrong back. Um, Tay Davis, another linebacker they brought back. I think this signing is more filling some of our special team needs. Bringing in this guy have not played that many snaps in the NFL, but a guy from the Cleveland Browns coming in, special teams guy that, and it also a linebacker bring adding to that room. And then the last guy we brought in is Mike Hughes, which you just reported that is a 2-year deal for this cornerback. Bringing him in to probably play the slot position. Mike Hughes, first round pick for the Minnesota Vikings. I think the big issue with him, he had injuries, was not able to stay on the field, but he did have flashes at Minnesota and at Kansas City as well. Um, played played over 220 snaps in the slot last year for the Detroit Lions. So um, if he can actually pan out and be our slot, our nickel corner, because we did lose Isaiah Oliver. So this is going to be a big question mark. We do have D Offer, a guy that came in last year coming from the CFL, and made the team, and he had moments as well. So that'd be a good competition at that slot position. But we need to solidify the nickel. We know that most of the defensive snaps is now played with a nickel out there. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if Mike Hughes, he got paid like he was going to actually be that nickel guy. So he does have familiarity with Jerry Gray, our pass defensive coordinator. So hopefully we could be able to spark up some of the plays that he made. Like I said, he's in Minnesota and with the Kansas City Chiefs. So guys, that is our defensive guys. I don't think they're done on defense. Still a couple more holes. Maybe another pass rusher. We keep talking about pass rush, but at some point, I think we have to see if the guys that we drafted last year is going to be able to take a jump. Armor Ebiketie showed flashes last year. Picked him in the second round, so he's a guy that really needs to really show a jump as a pass rusher. Um, D'Angelo Malone as well. D'Angelo Malone is a guy that's coming off that corner, a guy that definitely um, could both of these guys could have a big jump from year 1 to year 2. Sometimes it take guys to that long NFL 17 game season to get that under their belt, and they come back the next year because now they know how to take care of their bodies. They know the the, the whole long season, how long it is, and they understand what they need to do to be a pro. So hopefully these guys come out and hit the ground running, and our pass rush should be a whole lot better with some of the guys we already have in the locker room. And hopefully another guy, Okendeji, is another guy that kind of, to me, took a step back last year. So is Ade Okendeji can also take a step forward. We have some young guys, we keep talking about pass rush, going out and getting pass rushers and things like that. But the Falcons did invest in, it's not like they have not been investing in pass rusher, young guys. Some of these guys got to hit, they got to start developing. And we just drafted 2 last year. Hopefully these guys can take the jump from year 1 to year 2. And if they do, that would be big. But they still have funds out there. They can actually go out and add to that position. We talked about linebacker. Are they going to bring another guy in the middle of linebacker position? Um, but other than that, I love the way the defense is going to transform. It has potential. I'm not going to say it will be, but it has potential to be a top 10 defense next year if all these guys can stay healthy. So that's one of the things I love. Eric say Carter is a ball hawk. He definitely is. But he does say, what position or position do you feel will address early in the rounds of the draft? glad you asked that. That's gonna be the last thing I'm gonna talk about the draft. Um, I'm gonna get over all our additions for the signings first, and then we'll talk about the draft at the end because I do have some ideas. Um, because the question is, when you think about free agency, the offseason, a lot of these guys, a lot of teams go out and they try to address their needs, in free agency. So when you go in the draft, you're not reaching for needs because when you start to reach for some of your needs, that's when you start to get bad draft picks. So I felt like the Atlanta Falcons definitely went out and addressed a lot of their needs. So the draft is really going to be exciting this year because they could go either way in a lot of spots because they address so many needs. But let's go ahead into our offense additions that we brought in this offseason. Like I said, it's a lot of guys. Man, the Atlanta Falcons made a lot of moves. They made more than any other team this offseason. Um, so let's get to it. The first big domino to drop is actually was before anything from an offensive standpoint, and that was the trade for Jonnu Smith from the New England Patriots um, for a 7-round pick at that. Like Terry Fontenot be dealing 7-round pick for Jonnu Smith, um, a guy that actually has a lot of experience playing under Arthur Smith, who actually the reason why he got paid from the New England Patriots because of the production he got playing under Arthur Smith with the Tennessee Titans. This guy is dynamic playmaker. They actually had him coming out of the backfield, running the ball, screen plays, um, contested catches. Just a great athlete, Jonnu Smith. Another weapon that to add to the tight end room. We know Arthur Smith loved tight ends, so we're gonna see a lot of 12 and 13 um, formations out there this year. We can utilize these weapons. Um, and when you have that, think about it. You get in 12 and 13, that's heavy. Your defense going at base packages, but we can pass out of 12 and 13 because of guys like Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts being out there, which is create mismatches when they're in their base, right? Because now they have to pick their poison. They think we're going to run the ball because we're heavy in 12 and 13, but then we spread it out and you know and pass the ball. That really will put the defense in a bind if they're in their base. So think about things like that where John Smith is really going to be able to make this team better. We talked about going out and get receivers and things like that, but John Smith is definitely another weapon for Desmond Ritter, um, and I love this addition to go along with a guy like Kyle Pitts. Another guy that I thought we might bring back is Michael Pruitt. I thought played really well for us, but with the addition of Jonnu Smith, that might not be the case because now you think about it from a tight end room standpoint. They already got like 5 tight ends. They got Parker Hesse, who's dynamic blocker in the run game for us. Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith. John Fitzpatrick is the tight end we drafted from Georgia last year, who actually didn't even get on the field because of injury. Um, so we have a lot. John Rain is another guy that's on the roster at tight end. Probably end up being on the practice squad if anything. But Gardner Smith loved tight ends. He got a lot of tight ends. And then we won't forget about Felipe Franks as well. Another guy that's still on the roster. Converted quarterback to tight end, who's big guy, big lean guy that's trying to learn the position. So a lot of tight ends on the team. So a guy like Michael Pruitt might not be coming back. But I love the addition of Jonnu Smith. The next guy they brought in, I'm gonna talk about some guys that was already here. Of course, Caleb McGarry was I think was a really really good deal. They had Caleb McGarry on Spotrac. His value was 17.7 million. We was able to sign him back at 11.7 million. So I think that was a great deal for the Atlanta Falcons. They went out and let him test the market. Didn't like what he want. Then he liked what he heard. Came back, a team that he was familiar with. Pair him back up with the other guy that we paid, Chris Lindstrom. We gave him an extension, 5-year deal. Probably the best guard in the league at this time. If you look at Pro Football Focus last year, Chris Lindstrom actually was the highest rated guard in the NFL last year. So paying a guy like Chris Lindstrom, pairing him back up with Caleb McGarry, is a really big thing for us. So um, both of those offensive linemen. Only issue now is the left guard position. That's still a question mark for that because we still have that hole that we need to fill, which could be something they addressed in the draft. So um, the next guy is Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke coming in, a guy that's going to come in and fill that backup role. I think is the perfect guy to put in behind a guy like Desmond Ritter, competitive guy that's going to come in, is going to make Desmond Ritter work. Um, a guy that if Desmond Ritter goes down or don't play well, you can come in and win games with. Not a guy that you figuring going to be the future of your franchise, but Taylor Heineke has played a lot of games, has over 28 starts in the NFL, and has won a lot of games. Um, but in my opinion, is the definition of a backup quarterback. Somebody that comes in, know that that's their role, know that if a guy goes down, he's going to step in and play um, his heart out. Did it with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Got hurt with the Washington team a couple of years ago. He did it last year um, when Carson Wentz went down. So Taylor Heineke is really familiar of being a backup. When guys go down, not playing well, he comes in and play play that backup role like he should. I think it's a good signing, especially after last year when we had a guy like Marcus Mariota that when he got benched decided to leave the team. So good signing. He already mentioned he's not coming in to compete for the starting role right now. He understands that Desmond Ritter, they're going to give the young guy a chance to see what he got, and Taylor Heineke is going to help him all the way. So that's the kind of backup we need. I love the signing of Taylor Heineke coming in to be that solid backup. Um, Matt Collins was definitely a guy under the radar for me. Didn't even, I'll be honest with you, didn't know a lot about Matt Collins, receiver out of the Las Vegas Raiders, but actually was the second leading receiver on the team last year. Had a breakout season. Um, second in touchdowns and yards to um, their all-star receiver out there in Las Vegas. So you have to go back and look at some of his highlights. Big body receiver. Atlanta Falcons, for some reason, Arthur Smith love big body guys. You're going to have to be physical when you play the Atlanta Falcons. Definitely. Drake London, 6'4", Kyle Pitts, 6'6", Jonnu Smith, 6'3", um, Mac Hollins, 6'4", Cordell Patterson, 6'2", Tyler Algier is 225, 230 pounds. So you're going to be physical when you playing this Atlanta Falcons team. Um, but this is a good pick. A guy like Matt Collins come in, has a lot of special team experience as well. Really physical in the run game, blocking down the field. We know that big frame, and he's very good at contesting catches. Every guy right now, from a receiver standpoint, is really good in contested catches. Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith, Drake London, and now Matt Collins. Um, the only thing we do need probably a shifty, young, quick receiver to add to this. And I think from a receiver standpoint, we do have Jared Barnhart, who actually made the team last year, but did not get a lot of play time and none at all because he actually was on the IR last year as well. But he's on the roster, but no experience. So we'll see what he's able to do. And then the last guy on the offensive side brought back swing tackle Jermaine Fetty. Has potential to play right guard and right tackle as well. Not that much left guard, but maybe he could fill in at that spot. I think right now Matt Hennessy is probably going to end up being our left guard unless we bring a guy like Elijah Wilkinson back, or like I said, we'll address that in the draft. So those are some of our offensive guys we need to think about. Um, how will Taylor Heineke affect the quarterback room? I think I just talked about that. I think he's going to be a solid um, backup. Basically, the word came out his mouth. That's what he said. He come in to be the best backup he can be. I think that that's good for the psyche of the quarterback room because Desmond Ritter now knows that it's his job to lose. He need to come in and know he's quarterback one. He needs to come in and actually take over the team and try to be the leader of the team from day one. And you got to look out like Taylor Heineke is going to try to help him be that quarterback, be the future. On the front, so go to the special teams. Only two special team additions that we added, guys that we brought back to the team. Um, our punter Bradley Pinion brought him back, signed him. This was before actually free agency started, and we brought back Liam McCullum as well, our long snapper. So both of those guys coming back. You want that continuity to be there on special teams with Young Wei Koo. We love that Pinion had one of his best years in punting the ball last year, so it was good to bring him back. I think we locked him up for like 4 years, so it's a good signing bringing him back. And then you got to think about guys like Tay Davis, Cornell Armstrong, and even guy like Mac Hollins um, being part of the special teams as well. Of course, we did lose Mike Ford, our best gunner, to the Cleveland Browns. So you, uh, like I said, bringing the guys like Cornell Armstrong, Tay Davis, those guys gonna have to pick up the spot. Cardell Hard is another guy that was another good gunner that we had on the squad. He has not signed with anybody yet. Maybe he's a guy that we could potentially bring back as well. So think about a guy like Cardell Harsh maybe coming back because he's one of our best special teamers as well. We did lose Mike Ford, but some of these guys that we actually signed is going to be pros. We remember Lorenzo Carter was definitely on the um the punt team. I mean punt return team. We know what happened with that. Him and Troy Anderson um, wreak havoc against the Rams. Block punt, return back for a touchdown. So some of our starters, you're going to put your best guys on special teams. Special teams is really important. A lot of people forget about that. So, um, Wallace says, "What's going on, Ricardo? What's up? What's up?" D. Sloan says, "I would like to see special team keep adding impact." Yes. One thing we do have to talk about special teams. We know that we had the leader in punt return yardage on our team last year, and Avery Williams. Hopefully, we can see him break one this year. Remember, Avery Williams had over, I think, eight touchdowns in college at Boise State, so he's really dynamic. He almost broke a couple last year. Really, really, really explosive returner for us, and we know what CP did to break that um that kickoff return record. He's the leader right now for all time. Dante says Heineke is a Georgia native, played at college. Yes, yes. I didn't know this. This is one of those crazy facts. He actually threw for over 700 yards in a high school game. That's that's crazy. I mean, they're just hearing about that. A guy throwing for over 700 yards in one game, and Taylor Heineke actually did that in high school. So um, you can see the athleticism that he has. Um, like I said, he takes a lot of chances. If I think of anything, Taylor Heineke is going to give his receivers a chance. He's like the total opposite of a guy like Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota scared to take any chances, but Taylor Heineke, I promise you this: if his receiver is down the field, he's going to throw it up. He's more like a gunslinger than I ever seen, but um, hopefully he could bring some of that fire to a guy like Desmond Ritter, which I really think Desmond Ritter already has. Can't wait to see him have a whole season. We don't know what Desmond Ritter going to bring, but we're going to get our chance to see this year. So that's one good thing about having um, this season because the Atlanta Falcons with these additions so far they put pieces around Desmond Ritter to be successful. Now it's going to be up to Desmond Ritter. So, and that's what you want. You want to be able to give your young quarterback a chance to play well with pieces around him. Don't feel like he has to do everything by himself. And if he could do that, um, we can see what we have in him because we give a good offensive line, give him a good running game, a good defense, good explosive weapon to give the ball to, in the passing game, it's really no excuse for Desmond Ritter not to play well. So the only excuse would be him not doing the things he need to do. So hopefully that's what we'll get to see out of Desmond Ritter. All right, guys. Next thing we talk about is, so we just talked about all the additions that the Falcons have made, and we just talk about the remaining salary cap. So right now, the Atlanta Falcons have $21,754,760 left on the cap. So they still got money to spend, and so for one thing, you could say that really, really impressive about how the front office have managed the signings, because they probably brought in like 14 guys and they still have $21 million left, right? And and a lot of these guys are more than 1 year contracts, right? Some of these guys are going to be here for a while, so they're starting to build a roster where it's not like last year they was bringing in 1 year deals after 1 year deals. They're actually bringing in guys that's going to be here for a while. And right now you're looking at the cap, $21 million left, about $5 million for your draft class. And then if you listen to Terry Fontenot, he likes to have money during the season as well. So he's not going to actually spend all of it. So about $5 million for your draft class, about $4 to $5 million for um, money to take into the season. So that leaves about $11 million to play with, to bring in a couple more guys in free agency. Um, and that's what we can talk about. If they want to bring in another pass rusher, a guy like Ayike Wagakwe is still out there. Unique Ngakwe is still out there. Of course, a really explosive pass rusher, guy that's they had probably 8 sacks in his last 7 years playing. So really productive guy. He's almost like a hired a gun coming in, because he don't play with so many teams coming in. Maybe he just going to the highest bidder, right? That's probably what a guy like Yannick Ngakoue is going to do. But they could definitely bring a guy like him in. Um, so pass rush is something they definitely could look at. Everybody's been clamoring for a receiver, definitely, especially a speedy receiver, like the addition of Mac Hollins, but bringing in a speedy receiver. I think only guy that could be out there we could kind of consider now is DJ Chark. He's still out there. Miko Hardman is gone. He's off the board. Went to the New York Jets. Um, maybe people been mentioning Corey Davis, guy who has actually have ties with Arthur Smith as well with the Jets right now. They just brought in Lazard. They brought in Hartman. Corey Davis could be a guy that could be outside looking in, unless he's going to be part of the trade to go to the Green Bay Packers. He might get cut. Maybe the Packers waiting on that to be able to bring him in. So receiver would be a spot to look at. Edge rusher would be a spot to look at with the remaining funds. Linebacker is another spot. Um, and plus, exactly, definitely left guard position, um, because you want to be able to solidify the offensive line for our young quarterback and continue to make that run game look good. Remember, we was third in rushing last year. Let's see here. Comments. What's up, Ricondo? Hope I didn't miss much. How did Goldman return possibly change our draft plans? Um, So you talking about? So I think we talk about Eddie Goldman. First of all, let's hope Eddie Goldman don't decide to retire again, right? Because he came in and then he didn't make it to training camp. So hopefully he's here to stay this year. But I think the addition of Eddie Goldman, Amanyata, um, really changed our defense. I think it's one of our strongest positions on the team now, defensive line, vice before when maybe it was probably one of our weakest spots. So Eddie Goldman coming in definitely is a big deal for us. Um, we mentioned Calais Campbell. If he decided to come, that'll just even make it even better. But I still don't think it would stop them from going out and getting a defensive tackle and maybe in the later rounds. We're going to talk about the draft in just a minute because I really believe if Jaden Carter there, maybe it might be hard to pass up on him as well. So Dante says, any updates on Kyle Pitts? The word on Kyle Pitts is he's fine. He will definitely be back for the off-season program. Maybe not for the OTAs that start next month, but definitely the mini camps and training camp. He will be back. They say his recovery is going well. That's the latest word we got. So Kyle Pitts should be ready to go. I think we want to get another receiver. We want to get another receiver to the draft. That's possible. I'm going to talk about a couple guys that I already don't have visits with. In just a minute, we're talking about the draft. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the draft real quick. This will be the last thing we talk about today, guys. So first of all, we talk about the draft. First thing, like I mentioned earlier, is that first thing I mentioned earlier was that the free agency is for you to go get needs, right? So I think the Falcons actually did that. I think they addressed a lot of the needs that we thought. I think we all felt like defense was where we really need to make some of our bones in free agency. We did that, right? I think we solidified a lot of positions. Our secondary is really looking good. Our defensive front looking good. The only question is at the linebacker position. Still might need to bring another guy in for the linebacker position. So we can be looking at that in the draft. But for the most part, from a defensive standpoint, I think we look good. You want to be able to create depth though with those positions. So bringing other pieces in on the defensive side in the draft is definitely where these guys are going to be looking. So their philosophy since they've been here has been best player available. And this right here really helps them going best player available because of what they did in free agency period, right? So if you're looking at some of the guys they already had visits with already, they talked to tight end Sam Laporta from Iowa. Told you Arthur Smith love his tight ends, right? Definitely, if he's there when they probably not early in the draft, but maybe looking at another tight end. They talked to Jamie Robinson from Florida State, safety. Actually, Jamie Robinson actually played with my son in high school, so pretty good safety from the Florida State. He actually started at South Carolina. He transferred to Florida State. A solid safety. They looked at running back Tarjay Spears from Tulane, right? Definitely a guy to bring in. You always need the two-headed. I think the days of not having one workhorse, and we know CP may be his last year here, so bringing in another running back to go alongside Tyler Algier is big. They also looked at receiver. We talked about receiver. They looked at Jaden Reed from Michigan State. So these guys they already had on visit. You know, each team get 30 guys to bring in on visits. Right now, these are the guys they already that been reported that they already visited with. Pretty sure it's more guys out there that they have talked to, but for right now, those are the guys reported that have been there. So tight end, DB, running back, wide receivers. They've been to all the pro days as well. So of course, Alabama had their pro day today. Ohio State had their pro day yesterday. Georgia had their pro day last week. So you're just looking at the different pro days. Atlanta Falcons had represented all those pro days. So just looking at the defensive end class in this draft is really, really deep, right? So if we want to go out and get a pass rusher, we don't have to get him at number 8. We can definitely get him in on day 2 if need be, like we got Armor Ebike last year. But if you're looking at some defensive ends that's out there at the top, and then like I said, in day 2, looking at Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Keon White from Georgia Tech, Miles Murphy from Clemson, of course Nolan Smith, who in my opinion could be the steal of the draft, guys. I'm telling you, Nolan Smith, and I'm just gonna if you look at his build. I know the numbers don't show it on film because Georgia defense was so dominant, right? You look at it, they don't be on the field that long. It's like 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So a lot of these guys don't don't get the flash like they definitely could because the defense is just so dominant from everywhere. So a lot of these guys don't put the numbers they could probably put up if they was with another team. But Nolan Smith, just look at his the way he played, his explosiveness. He could be a Michael Parson type guy that you can put on the line and rush the passer, and also put him in in the in the linebacker position as well. So look out for Nolan Smith. Could be a steal for us guys early. He could be going early. So just look for Nolan Smith. Big Lucas Van Ness, definitely a guy they could be looking at. Will Madonna, who's actually shooting up the draft board now right now. Um, Felix Ozuma, guy from really good. BJ Argilare, guy from LSU. You know, his brother's already in the league, played for the New York Giants, came from Georgia. So those are some of the defensive, I mean, edge rushers. So it's a lot of edge rushers, guys. So if they want to get an edge rusher, they don't have to get an edge rusher early. They can get him, probably get some of those guys on day two as well, early in the draft on day two. So look out for that for edge rusher. Cornerback, cornerback is definitely a consideration because Casey Hayward been in the league 11, 12 years. So if they want to be able to go out and get one of these top cornerbacks, they definitely could. This could be something they look at early in the draft. Deborah Witherspoon, Joey Porter Jr., of course, Christian Gonzalez, Emmanuel Forbes, um, Brian Branch. He's listed as a cornerback. Of course, he played safety, Alabama. He had his pro day today. Of course, Keely Ringo from Georgia. It's a speedster, real physical cornerback, playing man to man. Deontay Banks from Maryland, and Tyree Stevens from Miami. So cornerbacks is definitely could be something that the Atlanta Falcons definitely may target in the draft as well. So look at cornerbacks. Of course, you talk about defensive tackles. We want to be able to add defensive tackle. We're going to talk about Jalen Carter. We know his off the field issues that he had. His pro day was less than desirable, right? Came in 9 pounds overweight, and he actually didn't even finish the drills. You know, could be a mental thing, a lot of things going on. We know the story about that young man. You know, was drag racing with the other friends that killed themselves. So could have been a lot of things going on in his mind. So, but um, everybody says, and if you look at the film, it shows that he might be the best player in the draft. So I'm just going to say if Jalen Carter is there, number 8, the Falcons have to consider pulling him in. Um, it's not a need anymore because we already got, but Brent pairing a guy up, some people say could be a generational player against, beside a guy like Grady Jarrett for years to come. You might can't pass that up. My opinion that he probably go to the Seattle Seahawks at 5. They probably they're definitely look at guys like that. I don't think he's going to get past them, but maybe if he do, um, the word is the Atlanta Falcons would pass him right now because of some of the off the field issues and things like that, and his work ethic. The word is he's lazy, he take plays off. But if you look at the film, really explosive, dominant player. Um, and I agree with a lot of people. I think he is probably maybe be the best player in the draft. Um, Offensive line is another thing we talked about. It's not a sexy position to get. Nobody likes when people pick offensive line in the first round. But if that's a need for us, maybe, and if they have the first best player available on their board, they can definitely pick an offensive lineman. We look at Peter Skoronsky, Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, Joe Tippin, Steve Avila, um, Cody Mock, and Darnell Wright. All those guys, offensive linemen that the Atlanta Falcons could definitely pick in. I think maybe they might go offensive line later in the draft, if anything, um, to solidify that guard position. But left guard is really is something. Maybe that's part where they go in free agency, so they won't have to feel like they need to actually go out and find a left guard, or or they feel like Matt Hennessy could actually be that guy for us at left guard. So those are some of the things we have to think about. Now, some of the outliers out there, a guy like Bijan Robinson is definitely has been populating, amongst Falcon Twitter about the Atlanta Falcons could pick him. They picked a tight end the first year. They picked the receiver last year. Um, and they could pick Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is definitely one of the better players in this draft. It's definitely not a need for us. But yes, Bijan Robinson going to get with Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson in that backfield, that would be deadly, deadly, deadly. So, and if he's the best player on the board at the time when they get ready to pick, they can definitely pick a Bijan Robinson. Don't see it happening, but um, we can say one thing about the Atlanta Falcons these last couple of years with this regime. You don't know what they're going to do, right? I think the first year, a lot of people thought they was going quarterback, right? Everybody thought they was going to get Justin Fields, and they picked Kyle Pitts. Last year, it was definitely we was going to get a pass rusher. We was going to pick a pass rusher, and we picked Drake London. So you don't know what the Atlanta Falcons are going to do. So best player on their board could be, they think it's Bijan Robinson. They'll pull him off the board. He's a great player. It's not a need, but he would definitely help this team be successful next year. That's why, in my opinion, it could be Nolan Smith. We don't know how high Nolan Smith is on their board, and what they're trying to do. He could be the top guy. Jalen Carter could be number one. If he's there, that's who they'll pick, right? Like I said, offensive lineman. Um, I don't see them picking a receiver this time. I think the receiver in the draft is kind of not like last year. It's not top heavy, so don't see a receiver going in the top 10. But any other position, definitely pass rusher, defensive tackle. Um, Brian Brees is another defensive tackle they could definitely pick for Clemson. Another guy who had a lot of issues, dealing with mental health. His sister died on him. Got injured last year early in the season. So, but he's really explosive defensive tackle. Definitely could bring him in. And then Mozzie Smith from Michigan is another guy, defensive tackle. So if they want to go defensive tackle and you know, add to that room, they definitely can do that in the draft, early in the draft. But those are some of the positions. So let's see here, go through some of the comments. We say, well, I already read that one. Yes, we're not drafting a defensive tackle at number 8, but maybe later rounds. I definitely can see that. Unless, like I said, one of those guys up there that they think is the best player available. I think we'll draft Spears in the 4th round. Tarjay Spears, yes, if he's there, I think I agree with you because I think they really like him. I was thinking the same thing. They could draft Nolan. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, man. Nolan Smith really impressed me. You go back and look at his film at Georgia as well. He's so smooth and he just, like I said, if you just go look at the Dogs play, a lot of times they don't get a lot of snaps because everybody good. So nobody stands out on that team. So you have to just pick the plays that they do make and try to translate that, multiple times because they're not going to have a lot of plays because everybody on that team makes plays. So nobody really stands out, and it kind of hurt their stock that way. But Nolan Smith, we don't really talk about the testing and things like that, but what I've seen on film and the testing really ties together. They already comparing to a guy like Hassan Reddick. And you see what Hassan Reddick did for the Philadelphia Eagles, what he been doing this league for a while. So same type, same build, but Nolan Smith is actually more athletic than Hassan Reddick. So definitely. And like I said, I'm not comparing him to Michael Parsons because Michael Parsons definitely got a potential to be one of those generational players. But a guy like Nolan Smith has the same build as well, just as fast as Michael Parsons, and he could be utilized in the same kind of manner. So just imagine it. While it said yes, we could go offensive line, definitely go offensive line. Like I said, not as sexy to be a boring day one in the draft if they do that, but it'll be a good pick, I'm sure, because we do need offensive line. Trenches matters. Um, but we're good at position. Any direction draft could. I don't think we're going to get Fields. You didn't think we was going to get Fields? I wasn't. I thought we was going to get Pitts, but man, it was either way. I think this, but I can't tell you this. I think Trey Lance was there. I think they like Trey Lance more than they like Justin Fields. So if Trey Lance was there, I think maybe they might would have went with Trey Lance instead of Kyle Pitts. So, but of course, 49ers came up and took Trey Lance. But I think they really like Trey Lance, but he was already off the board. And that's what made them go with Kyle Pitts. So that's just one of the things going on, Millie Mills. See here. I don't know if we're going to draft a big DN. That's the question. If you're looking at, so this is because we have never seen a Ryan Nielsen defense, right? Um, we do not know the type of pass rushers he want, because you go back to the New Orleans Aints, right? They had big defensive ends, guys like Jordan Cameron, um, Hickerson, guys from that left and went to the Cincinnati Bengals, right? They had big defensive ends. That's what he used with Davenport. Big defensive end guys like that. Atlanta Falcons have more of a 3-4 outside linebackers for their defensive end, right? So he mentioned that it can be multiple and things like that. So the question is, to your point, are they going to go big defensive end guys like Lucas Van Ness, a guy like a Tyree Wilson, um, right? I mean, of course, I can tell you this right here, 100% is Will Anderson is there. We're going to take him, right? We're going to take Will Anderson. He's definitely the best pass rusher in the draft. So definitely, is Will Anderson Jr. is there from Alabama. We'll take him automatic. That's automatic yes for that. But to your point, we really don't know because we never seen a Ryan Nielsen defense. We seen what the New Orleans Aints defense was like. It's not going to be the same type in Atlanta because we don't have the same personnel. It's going to be different. We got to be able to utilize guys like Armand Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, who's smaller, not as big, right? We're going to have to be able to use guys like Aya Okundeji, Lorenzo Carter. We're going to have to be able to use these guys. Um, that's why we already have that type of guy. That's why Nolan Smith to me makes sense because you just adding to that build instead of going the other route and bringing in a big body defensive end. So those are one of the things you just have to look at. While I say you agree with me about Trey Lance, yeah, I really think they like Trey Lance. Billy Mills said Wilson, Carter, Gonzalez, pick at 8. Scaruncy, Murphy, Smith, or Witherspoon is honorable mentions. All these guys would be okay. If they pick any of these guys that Millie Mills just went, Wilson, Carter, Gonzalez, yes, any guy, because I think they all are home runs for us, right? I think we'll be happy with either one of these guys. I agree. I agree with you 100% on that. I heard that Nielsen was going to stay with who we had to be in multiple with it. Yes. Yes, he already said it. I mean, they asked him numerous times in his press conference, but did he 4-3 or 3-4? He said he's going to play the guys we got, and we have to do that, right? We just signed Arm Ebiketie. He's not a big defensive end. We just signed D'Angelo Malone. He's not a big guy, so we're gonna have to utilize these guys. But I think the biggest thing with Nielsen is really going to bring the biggest dividends is that defensive line, the interior guys. That's where he's going to be able to make his bones with guys like Amayada, Grady Jarrett, Taquan Graham. Because you look at the improvement and how great the run defense was with the New Orleans Aints. Um, you just got to know that he had a lot to do that because he was the defensive line coach for all those years. So um, that's what I love most about Ryan Nielsen coming in, being able to make those defensive linemen better. I think that's where our wicked spots anyway. Where's our defensive line? Wallace said, and I think that's why we signed it. Yes, because he's that type of guy. Right. I agree with you. Amelia Mills says, rumor that we were high on Cam Smith, the cornerback. Yeah, I heard about him as well. But I think in right, if we go cornerback in second round, definitely, and him, and then a guy like Tyreek Stevenson as well. Um, Deontay Banks is another guy. I mean, if we can get Brian Branch, in the second round, like at number 44, that would be really, really good because I'll tell you guys, Brian Branch, he remind me of a smaller version of what we got here in Jesse Bates. He's really, really instinctive. He comes downhill. He's a solid tackler. Not as fast as you would want. I think he ran a 4.5 in the combine. I don't know if he ran today, his pro day. We probably have to go look at that because he did have his pro day today. Maybe ran faster today. But Brian Branch is another guy that definitely um, they could consider. Joey Porter Jr. is another cornerback they could consider as well. Of course, you have the bloodline, with Pops playing in the NFL, so he's going to be ready to go. And then one of my favorite cornerbacks in the draft is Witherspoon. It's really, really physical. If you go back and look, I mean, this guy played at Illinois, right? Illinois never have guys come into the pro, but so if you play good at Illinois, that says a lot. But not allowing people to catch the ball was what he was known for, and his physicality and tackling is another thing. So Devin Witherspoon is definitely another guy um, that the Atlanta Falcons could definitely pick, and he would go at number 8 because he would be gone if they don't get him at number 8. Yes, it is fast enough, right? And with a guy like playing that, because see, you bring a guy like Brian Branch in, now you play big nickel, right? You bring in Jesse Bates, Richie Grant, and Brian Branch, and you play big nickel. And that's you take a guy like Mike Hughes out. Um, Mike Hughes is played the small nickel position because they brought him in to be nickel, but a guy like Brian Branch come in, you play big nickel, and man, you have some. That's to be a solid defense there, guys. I'm telling you. Do you think we'll draft a safety? I don't know. I mean, we still got we keep forgetting about because we signed Jesse Bates. Jalen Hawkins is pretty good safety. He's pretty good safety. He could fill in that big nickel position as well. So we're not just going to forget about Jalen Hawkins. He's definitely a good safety to have on the team to add to that safety room. But yes, I could see them drafting the safety. But Brian Branch is more of a hybrid safety where he can play in the box. Cause like I say, he can play that nickel position. That's why I mentioned him. A traditional safety center fielder, maybe not. I don't think we would go there, but yeah. But I think Witherspoon. Yeah, yes. Witherspoon definitely be in number 8. Solid pickup, guys. I'm telling you. Um, so what you do with Hawkins? Yeah, that's a great question. He's depth piece, man. He's going to be depth. Right now, we know that the starting safeties right now is Richard Grant and Jesse Bates. So Jalen Hawkins already pretty much been demoted. This is last year on his contract. So, but you need depth at any every position. I'm sure that Jalen Hawkins is going to get some some spot snaps in there as well. Come in when you have guys that played a lot of snaps like a Jalen Hawkins. It allows the defensive coordinator to do so many different things, right? To get different looks. So Jalen Hawkins is a great blitzer at that safety position. So they could utilize, like I said, they can bring him in at nickel because he's a bigger guy He can blitz from that position. I think it'll be matchup dependent though. So somebody that comes in with Jalen Hawkins to be who he be matched up against more of every game and things like that. When I look at this defense and look at some of the players we have, I kind of like the idea of sort of like what Dean Pease did, what Coach Belichick do is like every week, it's a different game plan for the team you're playing, right? It's not always just come out and run the same defense and sort of like Dan Quinn, we're gonna get in cover three and you're just gonna have to figure it out. But you be multiple, you be able to do different things because you got different personnel and you could game plan each week for the personnel you got. And the it's harder for the offense to kind of scheme against what you're doing because you're doing multiple things each week. Of course, um, this will be a first year, in this defense, so it's a lot easier said than done. But um, I just like the depth that we got in a lot of positions. So I think cornerback position is going to rotate depending on opponents. There we go. I just said that. We thinking alike, man. Um, how do you feel about Eddie coming back? Eddie, like I said, man, they just hope he stays this time, right? I think most of us were excited last year to see what he was able to do. I mean, this guy is 6'3", 320 pounds. That's what he weighed before he left. I don't know how much he weighed now because he's been out a whole year. Some of these guys lose weight, but hopefully he stayed in shape. He comes in, um, and just do something. He had great 4 years when he was with Chicago. So let's just hope Eddie Goldman can add to that room. If anything, he's great depth rotation for that defensive line. And I'm going to mention Jalen Dalton and Timothy Horn as well, because those guys still on the squad, two undrafted guys that came in and played big for us last year because we needed them to. Hopefully these guys grow as well. But defensive front is really, really looking solid now with all those guys. We did lose a dual Anderson. He got signed by the Commanders, so he won't be coming back. I thought he played well last year when Taquan Graham went down. But defensive front, the rotation, and we can rotate guys. If you remember last year when they took Grady out, because he got some rest in some series, and we could see how they just really started to move the ball. Um, this year, hoping that something like that don't happen. Some of these guys get rest. You can rotate these defensive fronts, and you still get the same production. That's what we're trying to look for. Um, but they got Hughes to play nickel slot. Yes, Hughes going to play nickel. If you look at the contract, he signed a 2-year deal. So, but that's why I went and said big nickel because you bring in, a bigger body, to come in, and like I said, that'll be matchup dependent. They got a big tight end there. You bring in your safety to go against him instead of a smaller corner at the slot position. So something like that. To just an idea to make the offense different looks. So yes, but I think Hughes is going to be the primary nickel right now. That's what he was brought in for, right? But I think Darren Hall, the offer, those guys might have something to say about it, right? We know one thing about Arthur Smith: they're going to compete. Nobody just comes in and be given the keys, right? Of course, we got some guys we know they starters, but that nickel position, even though Mike Hughes is told that that's where they want him at, the offer played well last year, right? Darren Hall has had a lot of snaps, so those guys are gonna have something to say as well. I think teams started moving the ball on us when we let Rush go. Yes, Anthony Rush was. That's really weird. They never really mentioned why they let him go because they mentioned production, but that was just weird. Weird. It really was weird. I don't know what happened with that. Was it didn't cost a lot of money? Must have happened. But yeah, that was really weird when they let Anthony Rush go. One position, guys, that we did not talk about in the draft. We just got to mention it because um, it's out there, right? And that is the quarterback position, right? Um, would the Falcons draft a quarterback this year? Maybe not in the first round, but it's a lot of quarterbacks. See, I went to the combine. I didn't really realize there was that many quarterbacks that was invited to the combine, but it's a lot of quarterbacks out there. One guy that you can definitely think about, a guy like Hendon Hooker that played the Tennessee Balls, that probably won't play this year because he got injured late last year, so it'll be really late if he comes back at all this season. But I think Hendon Hooker he'll play. He could be a guy that come in and sit behind um, and be a good solid backup. Like I say, guys, you want to bring depth in every position. So bringing in another quarterback, because right now we want Desmond Ritter to be the guy, but we still don't know, right? He only played 4 games, so either way, good or bad, you don't know how good Desmond Ritter going to be. What we do know that he's going to have the pieces around him to be successful. So he's going to have every opportunity to prove that he can be that guy. That's what the Atlanta Falcons are trying to do. But at the same time, do you bring in another quarterback to add to that room? They already got 3 quarterbacks, but do you bring in another quarterback? That's the question. Um, should we go scat back, Bruiser, Tyler Algier? Um, see, this is an interesting question because Avery Williams is kind of a scat back in sense a little bit, um, because he's he's really good in open space. So and he can catch the ball. So Avery Williams is kind of that guy. I love the addition of a guy like Tarjay Spears to come in. Um, and we're to get a B. John Robinson, right? I mean, he actually Tyler Algier would be probably number 2, even though Tyler Algier is a beast. I don't really want to say that, but B. John Robinson is really good running back, guys. He could probably play receiver if he wanted to. That's how good B. John Robinson is. But I would think we would go with the same type, somebody that be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Archie Smith love big backs. We do know that. We have Caleb Huntley. Caleb Huntley probably is not going to be back in time. He tore his Achilles last year, so it's a guy that we will have to think about. A guy like Caleb Huntley. Um, so that's one of the things to think about with Caleb Huntley. Um, let's see here. No, I don't think we go quarterback. Maybe pick up one UDFA's. Yeah, maybe. We got 3 already. We got Logan Woodside, and interesting. Last year, we only had 2 quarterbacks during training camp, right? So Marcus Mariota and Des Ridder got a lot of snaps last year. This year, we got Logan Woodside, so the snaps going to be spread out a little bit more. But I really think that helped Desmond Ritter out last year because he got a lot of reps last year doing training camp. You know, I thought he flashed in preseason. A lot of people feel like maybe they should have just started him at the beginning of the season anyway. But you have to love the conviction of a guy like Archie Smith. He had a plan. He stuck to his plan until he felt like it was time to change it. And I thought he could have changed it earlier. I think a lot of us felt the same way. Um, thought Marcus Mariota had fizzled out by around that Carolina game, that Thursday night game. I think that was, to me, go back, look at my videos. I can tell you that's one of the times I was really like, yeah, it's time to make the change. Um, but but having 3 quarterbacks, like you're right, bringing in a 4 quarterback probably would not be um, that good. What is this? This is where Spears would take the role behind. Yep. Yeah, Tyler Spears, I agree with him. That guy is really good. I like Adam Arcane too. The guy is fast, man. I forget what school he's from, but really fast. Um, Jabir 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 Gibbs from Alabama definitely be gone. I love his speed as well, but he wouldn't be there as well. That's another guy that we could definitely utilize. Um, you got Malik Cunningham. There you go, another quarterback. All right, who's going to be the Brock Purdy this year, right? Right, that's the question. Who's going to be the Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, come out and actually And I think it's a lot to be said about these quarterbacks that play 4 years in college because they got a lot of snaps, right? A lot of these young guys come in and has not played a lot of football, um, and then you expect them to come into the NFL, which the game is really different. I mean, the pocket is different. The throwing lanes are so condensed, and the speed is really really different, right? And they haven't played a lot of games in college, and then you expect them to come into pro and actually be able to just hit the ground running. And that's why I love Desmond Ritter played 4 years, has a lot of games under his belt. Don't see a lot. I think the idea that his offensive line was not the best kind of helps him out a little bit, right? Because you get some of these quarterbacks like at Alabama, like at a Georgia, where the pocket was so clean for most of the time, and they didn't have to run for their life and things like that. Desmond Ritter, if you go back and look, the pocket was not always clean. He had to be able to maneuver in the pocket. I think that helps him out a little bit, and it showed a lot in his 4 starts that he had. Some of the things he was able to do. Like I said, Spears also played the Senior Bowl. Yes. I just telling somebody about this today. The Atlanta Falcons love drafting guys from the Senior Bowl. All right. We can just go off the list. D'Angelo Malone, Desmond Ritter, Richard Grant, um, Troy Anderson. All these guys came from um, the Senior Bowl. So you are right. They love drafting guys from the Senior Bowl. So Tarter Spears, believe me, they do have him on the radar. If he's there, when they get ready to pick, probably fourth to fifth round, oh, they will definitely snag him up and be really happy about that. So um, that's it, guys. I think we covered everything. Just what we're waiting on now, pretty much, to see what the Falcons decide to do. If they decide to do anything else in free agency, if they do, we'll come on here and talk about it and discuss. See, does it help? What they decide during the draft. Um, I think they're in a good spot right now. I think they're really, really in the spot to take best player available when they get ready to do the draft. And I think for all the things that you know, so everybody's a GM now, right? Everybody got opinions about how they think the Falcons should build this team. But this is their plan. This is how they're going to do it. So far, in my opinion, the first 2 years has been going well. They had hiccups here and there. They tried to go after Deshaun Watson. I thought that kind of got off the plan a little bit. For the most part, these guys been following the plan to the T. I think they saw enough from Desmond Ritter in their last 4 games to actually, to get him a shot this year. That's part of the plan as well. Um, and if it doesn't work, he's a third round pick. See, so everybody's saying this is a bad idea. Well, it's a third round pick, so it's not like they went out and drafted a first round guy and he was a bust. No, Desmond Ritter is a third round guy that potentially could end up being your franchise quarterback, and then they really look like geniuses, right? Because um, they didn't have to spend a whole lot of money in the first contract to go find their franchise guy. So this is a great plan. And then if it doesn't work, they could try to go get a quarterback next year. But the team around the quarterback will already be built. They already have a good, solid foundation on defense and hopefully on offense. That's what we're looking for. So I think this plan is good. Um, Definitely want to see what they're able to do these last couple, like I said, $21 million, what they decide to do with that. And then going into the draft, see how they can actually build this team. Mitty Mill says Ivan Peace Jr. ran 4.5 today. Might be another linebacker. Yes, I, I'm really interested to see what they do at that linebacker position. I mean, I like the linebacker room. Michael Walker, Troy Anderson, who I think is definitely going to make a big jump this year. Um, and Michael Walker, right, going into his last year's contract. But are they going to bring in anybody else? Right, that's the question. Really, the question we need to know. Um, and Spears from Tulane, you just giving all those good nuggets, man. He is a Tulane guy. That is correct. They have that connection. Um, but I think Ritter is our quarterback. He's hungry for an opportunity. Man, I'm be honest with you. I don't want to like just put it out there, but I really believe that Des Ritter is gonna be really good for us. I just can feel it. I don't have any evidence. I ain't seen enough or anything like that, but I agree. I think the idea that he had to wait to the third round to get picked. Um, everybody and their mama saying that the Falcons don't have a quarterback. The Falcons got a quarterback issue, and Des Renner just soaking it in, right? It's just soaking in. It's like I'm gonna prove it to all you guys. I can play this game. Um, and I mean, that's what you're supposed to do anyway, right? You're going to be a quarterback in the National Football League. You got to have that confidence to show that you can do it. But I mean, from what I've seen in the 4 games, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say about Des Ritter, um, his poise in big moments, I think he played better. If you go look at the third downs and fourth downs throws that Des Ritter made in those games, um, his poise was just really good, right? And then the factor in that, yes, he kind of keyed in on Drake London a lot, but Kyle Pitts was not there. A guy like John O. Smith, it wasn't there, right? Um, so he got more weapons to actually, you know, to play with this year. And then the fact that he's going to have the whole entire offseason to be day one starter coming in. He already knows the offense. Now, last year he was learning the offense and in OTAs and mini camp and things like that into training camp. Now he knows the offense. So he got a whole offseason to go out and learn, um, and just hone anything. He got an opportunity to get with these guys in the off season and throw and develop that timing and that camaraderie together. Right? He has all this stuff. So this is a big year for Desmond Ritter. It really is. Um, One of the knocks on him coming out of college with his accuracy, right? You know, um, but I think that really has a lot to do with his footwork. So I mean, he's been working on that, getting better. But I agree. I think Desmond Ritter is going to really be good for this year. And if he don't, we don't. Hopefully, we figure it out because we don't want to be the team that's trying to find a quarterback every year. That's what to help him and the defense this year impact. This is this is the formula. What Anthony's saying here. This is the formula, guys. Put pieces around your young quarterback. Defense, right? Weapons for him to be able to distribute the ball to. Um, he don't have to do a whole lot. You put the ball in your playmaker hand, right? Put the ball in CP hand, Tyler at your hand, um, Drake London's hand, Kyle Pitts' hand, John Smith hand. Put the ball in their hand. Don't turn over the ball, get a ball to the other team. Those kind of things. If he do all those things, Desmond Ritter can definitely be um, what we need here in Atlanta. But our organization don't leak out tips, no players drop pumpers. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, man. This is one of the organizations where, like I said, when we hear about stuff, we had no clue that it was gonna happen, right? The whole rumor about Lamar Jackson, it didn't come from the Falcons organization, right? It's just everybody thinking that would have been a good idea, but the Falcons never mentioned it, right? But everybody ran with it. So when the Falcons came out right away and said they wasn't going to pursue Lamar Jackson, like, why not? Well, they never had plans to in the first place. right? That's what everybody understand. And never had plans to pursue him in the first place. They already had a plan. So, and that's how it is. You're not going to hear anything from this front office. These guys are really locked in. And then he says Grady got help this year for sure. We need a wide receiver too, possibly a center. I can tell you, Grady got help. The wide receiver too is a yes, but Drew Dahlman is going to be the center. They really like Drew Dahlman. Yes, he had some snap mishaps last year. He had some bad moments, but um, you got to remember last year was Drew Dahlman actually first full season being the starter at center. So um, hopefully he improved. But I think Drew Dahlman is going to be our center. So I don't think they're going to be looking for a new center. Left guard definitely, but center probably not as much. Sorry, 5 yard X. Give me a minute. Just got back on. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Y'all about to take off though. Go back and look at it, man. Please go back and look at the show and definitely provide comments, everything. So we got a wide receiver too. Hollins, you right, we do. We got a wide receiver too. I think what people want to see for when we talk about receiver is a speedy guy, a shifty guy, somebody that can like a Demir Bird, bring a Demir Bird back, or Lamade Saki, somebody like that. Um, that's what I think a lot of people think we're missing when you talk about wide receiver two. And to be honest, a lot of people have never heard of Matt Collins before. Because I can be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about him until I looked him up. So, but he's really solid, and I agree. He could definitely be our number two guy. Uh, yeah, there's a word about D Hops. Yeah, for me, he don't seem like he's a Arthur Smith guy. That's the only reason why. Um, I mean, he would definitely be a big, but he don't seem like an Arthur Smith guy to me. DeAndre Hopkins. Um, so yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, maybe if they would, that would to me, that would be something out of ordinary that what they have done so far is going to get a big name guy like DeAndre Hopkins, because so far they have not really went out and got one of those big splash names. Everybody was like, wow, everybody thinking, they're just under the radar right now because the moves they made is really solid, but it wasn't any big name guys. It wasn't no no Brendan Graham's or Odell Beckham's, or only big guy we got was Jesse Bates, right? He's the guy that we went out and got, the big name guy. But other than that, all these other guys are solid guys that we brought in, and DeAndre Hopkins just does not seem like one of those guys. But never say never, right? Because they did go after Deshaun Watson last year. We just got to keep just. They went after Deshaun Watson with all the smoke behind him, and that that was just maybe that was the owner, Arthur Blank, because he had a relationship with Deshaun Watson. Maybe that's what that was all about. But you know, we don't know. But guys, that's all I have for today. Um, Thanks you for coming on, talking about the Falcons off season so far. What we can expect next from these guys. Um, I'm so excited to see what they do next. We just have to wait to see. They got $21 million to spend after having the most movement of any other team so far. So think about that. This has really been a good free agency period for this Atlanta Falcons team to have the most moves and still have $21 million left to actually add to this team. They got like almost 80 players, so they need about um, with the draft, they got 7 draft classes, so they probably got about 4 or 5 more spots they can fill before they have that 90-man roster for training camp, right? So, and then of course you got to think about they're going to bring in um, unrestricted free agents as well. I mean, yeah, undrafted free agents as well. So it's a lot of people they can still bring in to add, but you can only go in training camp with 90 guys, so it's going to be really tough to see who they decide to bring in. So that's all I got. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.